Last time on Node Matter, in part 1 we dragged UI elements which was their global position. But what if you wanted to drag an actual game object like sprites, nodes, polygons? And that's where Area2D comes in. If you ever tried to drag a Node2D and found that mouse clicks don't line up, well then this is a tutorial for you. Let's use Area2D to handle input the right way. For this one, let me just create a new scene. And we'll call it a 2D scene again. And let's call this one draggable area. Just trying to give it an appropriate name. And in this draggable area, what I can do is use a sprite and just drag it in here. So we'll get a sprite 2D, as you can see on the top right hand side in the inspector with the icon in it. Or we can just create something like maybe yeah, let's do it. Let's make something similar to what we had before. So let's delete the icon and let's add something called a polygon. This is a new node that I'm talking about now, polygon 2D. And with this polygon 2D we can actually draw something on the screen now. If we go into the editor, I'll just widen it up a bit, and we click at certain points, we can actually draw some sort of polygon. But I just want to delete this polygon, and let's start over and let's just make a normal square. On the right hand side in the inspector, we're going to always go to data, and in data we're going to click pack vector 2. And we're going to add 4 points. The sizes are the points. So let's just 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can just type in 4. And it goes from the top left hand corner across to the right, then to the bottom right hand corner, and then back to the left bottom corner, and then to the top. And that's how these nodes operate. So we'll leave the first one as 0, 0. The second one, if we want 100, a box that is 100 pixels wide, we'll put 100 here for the X value, and you can see the changes in the editor. For the next point, we want it at the bottom right hand side, so we'll put 100 by 100, and you'll notice we have a little triangle now, and we're just going to add a next point now. The next point will be the X value will be 0 and the Y value will be 100. And now we have the full square. Let me click off of that. We can change this. Let's give it another color. Let's to make it stand apart. And now we're just gonna apply an Area2D to this, not to the polygon. We're just gonna do to the draggable area, to the parent node, the draggable area parent node. And let's add Area2D. And what this does is just adds an area. You can't really see here, it's just this point here. But you'll see the editor is complaining that we need to add a collider or collision shape. So let's click the Area2D and let's add a collision shape. 2D. I chose shape because these are simple shapes. And let's add a new rectangle shape. You can actually use the collision polygon 2D and draw in your own shapes. And let's just resize this to the, let me just click the smart snapping. Good. So we have the Area2D, the CollisionShape2D, and the polygon in all these inside the draggable area. And let's save this as draggable area as default. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to use the physics of the game engine. Every time we click inside the collision shape, we're going to use that to click and drag. The collision shape actually detects collisions or mouse clicks or those kind of things with Node2D items. Let's just add a script to the parent node. Leave it with default name. We're going to use process, so we can probably leave that. Delete everything else. Let's use the same variables as we did in the other one. So we have a variable selected, or let's just call it dragging. And we can set that again to false. So we're not dragging the polygon right now. We also have a mouse offset. Of vector to 0, which is just default value. And we're going to be using signals, the built-in signals, to detect when the mouse is inside and the mouse is outside of the box. So let's just add another boolean here, and let's call it mouse inside maybe, and set that to false by default. With this Area2D comes all these nice new, if you click the node, all these nice new options here. And we are looking at the collision object 2D because that's where we're going to get our signals that we need to use. So these first three signals are what we want. Let me just widen this a bit so you can see it. We want the input event when the mouse is clicked. We want to know when the mouse is entered and when the mouse has exited. Let's start off with the mouse entered, add it to the draggable area. There we go. And mouse exited. What we can do is we can test this for now. So let's print in, and here print out. Pretty simple actually. Let's save this and run. So if I move everywhere here, if we move inside of the polygon, you see in comes up, and if I move out, out comes up at the bottom in the output here. In, out, in, out, in. So it works. So we're detecting when the mouse entered and the mouse exited perfectly. Now we just need to add code for when we click the left button of the mouse, and this is where we use the input event. So let's double click input event and add it to the draggable area. It'll come up at the bottom, and as you can see, this is a little different. In process, we're just gonna add, we just want to know if we're dragging. In other words, if the mouse is selected, if you have clicked the mouse and selected the box, we want to know if we are dragging the box. So let's just put dragging is, if dragging is true, we want to change the position of the box. So position is equal to, and we're going to get just a little different from the other method we were doing. We're going to use something called get global. We're going to get global mouse position, and we're going to add the mouse offset, which we are going to figure out inside the Area2D input event function. Again, similar to the other one that we did, if the event, the same event from the top here, event, let's widen this a bit. We can check for viewport event shape. We're not going to check for viewport right now, so let's just put an underscore before the viewport and the shape IDX. We're not going to check for those, so that the compiler doesn't complain that we're not using them. And we're not using delta in processor either, so let's underscore that as well. So if the event is an input event mouse button event, similar to what we did before. And we could also add the next line directly here as well, like we did before. And event button index is equal to, you can use the numbers or you can just use the constants like we did last time, colon. And again, if the event is pressed, so if the event is pressing of the left mouse button, and over here we're gonna check if the mouse is inside, when you're pressing the mouse, if the mouse was inside of the box. So if mouse inside, we're gonna apply we're gonna get the mouse offset, same way we did in the other example. Mouse offset is equal to the position minus the mouse position, which in this case is the get global mouse position, and we're going to set dragging to true because we are clicking the left mouse button and the mouse is inside, so we're going to set dragging equals true. Go back one, else let's set dragging to false. I hope these make sense because sometimes it can be confusing to beginners. That's why I'm taking my time and explaining these things. When the mouse is on the inside, we're going to set mouse inside to true. And when the mouse is outside, we're going to set mouse inside to false. And that's it. If we save this and we run, if I don't have any errors, it's supposed to work as we want it to. Let's click anywhere and let's click the red box, the polygon, and as you can see we can drag, and if I release, it stays where it is. And again, it drags, and you notice the offset from the mouse pointer is staying as we want it to. So this works perfectly. So this is how you move Node2D items in the game space, and the other way you can use to move UI items. So some people could actually build UI based games, like a deck of cards where you have to move around cards and all those sort of things. Or even if you have inventory space, those kind of things, you want to drag things into inventory, you can use the UI dragging method. Or you can even use this one. This one uses the built-in physics in the Godot engine, and the other one just uses pure transform position, like the box that we made in the first one. So let me know which one you prefer to use. If you prefer to use the UI-based drag and click, or if you prefer to use the Area2D and CollisionShape2D based drag and click. Me personally, I think that the second one is easier and more intuitive. The built-in signals, it's much easier to use than writing custom script. Plus, with an Area2D and a CollisionShape2D attached to the nodes, you can actually interact with other nodes in the game system. For example, if they hit each other, if they fall, if they float, if they slide, all those things can be done using the second method. The first method is just for UI placements, but not for in-game interaction between items. I hope this was informative to you, and I'll put up a few slides again so you can peruse on your own time. See you next time.